Hello and welcome back to Transfer Review, where me and Pato put silly season under the microscope. And I'm going to be honest with everyone, we're running out of time. We just shot World Cup review. We've got to go shoot Sunday Vibes straight after this. And then Stato Pato, don't know where that came from, is facing off with his Stat Wars The Champions opposite number soon after that. So hell of a morning, but you know, this is what we live and breathe for, isn't it, Patrick?
Yep, gonna crush the seagull.
Yeah, boy, but we're going to jump straight into our first rumour, which is Golovin, the Russian prodigious young talent, to Juventus. Been playing well at the finals and subsequently linked with a lot of big teams. What do you think? What do you make of it?
Yeah, well, he's kind of lit up the World Cup so far. He's got a goal and 2 assists in 2 appearances. He was rested for the other one. Now, he's obviously been linked with Arsenal quite a lot after CSKA Moscow played them in the Europa League. And his dad recently told press that his son is learning English, which obviously added fuel to the fire. But according to calciomercato.com, Juventus have already made a €90 million bid for the youngster after abandoning a move for Sergej Milinkovic-Savic because Lazio wouldn't sell to them for anything other than a king's ransom. Now, Allegri has already admitted that he's been watching videos of him. He says he's a good player. Juve CEO Beppe Marotta said, by Golovin, it is more than likely. Ooh. Anyway, CSKA are apparently demanding somewhere between 25 and 30 million euros. And they kind of don't want to close a deal really until Russia are out of the tournament, because obviously his price is only likely to rise if he has a good performance in the knockout stages. Juve apparently have a kind of pre-agreement with him or some sort of understanding with him on a contract. They pay him €3 million a year. That's actually more than they pay Alex Sandro, the same as they pay Douglas Costa at the moment. And they're really in the process of rejuvenating that midfield. Emre Can has joined on a free. They've got Pjanic, though he might well leave for Barcelona. They've got Sami Khedira and Blaise Matuidi. They're both 31. And then they've got Rodrigo Betancourt. So, as well as Rolando Mandragora, who might come back from loan. So they've got some good young talent, and Golovin seems like the ideal guy to add to it, I think.
He strikes me like an Allegri sort of player. Having watched him at this World Cup, he sort of chips in defensively too, doesn't he? And if he's going to maybe replace Mandzukic out wide left in that 4-2-3-1, then that bodes well, doesn't it? But if they've got Bernardeschi on one wing, Douglas Costa on the other, Pato, where does he kind of fit into that setup? Does he warrant a place as of yet? Or are they buying him, do you think, to improve him to then maybe just challenge for a first team place?
Yeah, I think
it's not a natural opening, is what I'm trying to say.
I think he could play as a central midfielder. I mean, that's where he's played most of this season. So he could definitely do a job there, and I think you're going to look at some of the stats. He's quite well rounded, but I think also Allegri isn't that wedded to a particular formation. He's quite willing to switch things around, and if Higuain comes out of the squad, maybe they try a 4-3-3 or something. Maybe they try 5 in midfield. Who knows?
Is he more of an attacking midfielder than a central midfielder? Because every time I've watched him, he has a tendency to peel out wide, and that's kind of why I see him as maybe an attacking midfielder or sort of a winger of sorts, but you tell me he's a central midfielder.
Well, he does have attacking ability, but I think it's natural, isn't it, that at the World Cup, when you don't have a huge amount of talent at your disposal, you want to free up your best player to get forward. It's the same way that Nigeria, over the last kind of 12 years, have played John Obi Mikel as a number 10, because he was one of their better footballers, not necessarily because he was an outstanding creative player. So I think that I don't know, that will actually be a kind of nice problem to have. It's kind of the same problem as you have with Blaise Matuidi, right? Which is that you've got this guy who's almost a hybrid winger central midfielder, and he gives you a defensive presence in the front line or an attacking presence in the midfield.
And he's not having the greatest time of it at the World Cup, is he, old Blaise? No one is in that French team because Deschamps is overrated. Anyway, on the subject of creativity, only 2 players have created more chances than Golovin's 5 at the World Cup, despite him actually sitting out Russia's 3rd game. Really impressive stuff from the youngster. And last season in the Russian league, which isn't the greatest indicator of talent sometimes. No. We saw it with Musa coming over from Leicester. That's the sort of most recent example I can think of. That didn't really pan out, did it? But solid numbers, 5 goals and 3 assists from a sort of central midfield position like Pato was talking about, although he did deputise on the wing and sometimes in the front line as well. A solid all-rounder, like you kind of intimated, 1.6 chances created per game, 2.6 tackles and interceptions, 1.9 dribbles, similar across the board actually to Dele Alli, in that he really defends from the front. However, it might be a little bit misguided to expect elite goal-scoring output from Golovin if you're a Juventus, let's say, because 60 of the 79 shots he took in all competitions last season came from outside the box. So he kind of needs to improve those shot numbers in order to achieve a more solid base, doesn't he?
Yeah.
In terms of output.
Yeah, that's what he lacks that Dele Alli has, I guess.
A little bit like a sort of a young Coutinho in that sense, in that maybe his output isn't sustainable at this point, but he's still doing pretty well. And we've seen him really dig in and raise his game, especially defensively against better opposition, which bodes well. Suggests there's more to come from him. In the Europa League, for example, and the Champions League, actually, before they crashed out, his defensive numbers were reaching 3.9 tackles and interceptions, so significantly better than in the league. So probably a gamble worth taking, I think, at this point.
I think so.
Is he your revelation at the World Cup so far? I think him and a Kanji of Switzerland, who Dortmund obviously were well onto before most other teams.
Yeah, I'd say that he's probably more of a revelation purely because with Akanji, when he goes to Dortmund, you kind of expect he's going to be good. Lozano, I think we're pretty certain he's good. Yeah. Whereas Golovin, I was kind of like, I don't know, like you said, Russian league, could be anything. But he's having a pretty good tournament though, so is Ahmed Musa, so who knows?
Musa.
Back on home turf.
Next
up we have Aaron Ramsey, who could be on his way to Lazio. Oof, this is a left field transfer rumour.
Yeah, rogue, I like this, despite how unlikely it seems. Manchester United and Juventus are currently refusing to pay over €100 million for Milinkovic-Savic, but it seems, according to the papers at the very least, that Lazio are kind of already sounding out options so should the big Serb end up departing, and Aaron Ramsey is top of their list, according to Corriere dello Sport. Now, the 27-year-old Welshman has just 1 year left to run on his contract, and Lazio have developed a habit of doing this in recent times, haven't they? Sort of picking up players that are coming towards the tail end of their contract for a knockdown price. Although Arsenal have offered him a new 5-year contract with a wage reported to be close to 200k per week. He's yet to sign. 200k. I mean, I like Aaron Ramsey, but he should be snapping you a nice hand off for that. Although I do think he'd look delightful in light blue.
Yeah, they do have lovely kits, Lazio. I don't know. I would buy a Lazio kit, but I don't want to look like a fascist, even though fascists do historically have great uniforms. Shiny boots, black shirts.
Tight. So, moving on. Unai Emery reportedly told Arsenal executives that he wants to build his team around Ramsey and Aubameyang, which I sort of get to an extent. Aaron Ramsey, I think, if you get the best out of him, is one of the well, he's definitely one of the more prolific central midfielders in the Premier League, right? Sure. But that's been the problem the last 2 or 3 years. He's kind of blown very hot and cold, hasn't he? What changes could Unai Emery facilitate that would get the best out of him from an Arsenal fan's point of view?
Well, I think he'll make him press, which I think he'll be good at. He is an energetic midfielder when he's fit. He is hard-working. He basically needs to be told not to play just like a kind of attacking midfielder. He needs to actually fulfill an all-round role, which is what he did in that 13-14 season when he was so good. He was actually had our best defensive output as well as being one of our best goal scorers. So I think that the arrival of Lucas Torreira will probably free him up as well in a little bit and probably show him that he could lose his place, you know, if he doesn't work hard.
You're very excited about that, aren't you?
Let's not talk about it, because
don't want to curse it, don't want to jinx it. One thing I noticed about Aaron Ramsey as well that kind of infuriates me is that the more Arsenal struggle, the more he sort of dawdles on the ball. He runs in circles, he doesn't release the ball very quickly, he sort of can slow down play at times, despite having that great habit of sort of arriving late in the box. So if Unai Emery can sort of get him playing snappier football, I think that would bode well. Arsenal also keen to avoid a Sanchez and Ozil situation, aren't they, wherein they're effectively strong-armed to either give someone a lucrative contract or let one of their star players go for a knockdown price. So if Ramsey doesn't re-sign soon, I imagine they'll be semi-willing to let him go. And as an Arsenal fan, you snap their hand off for 50 to 60 million, right?
Yeah, definitely. I certainly would, even though a lot of our fans wouldn't. But let's take a look at his numbers and see if he'd actually make sense for Lazio. Last season, Milinkovic-Savic scored 12 and assisted 3 in 35 appearances. That's a goal involvement every 190 minutes. Ramsey scored 7 and assisted 8 in 24 appearances for a goal involvement every 123 minutes. Those are really good numbers. That's like a goal-scoring winger. He also just edges SMS on defensive contribution, 2.9 tackles and interceptions per game to Sergei's 2.7. He obviously doesn't have quite the physical presence. He's 5'10". Milinkovic-Savic is 6'4". And as a result, Ramsey won just 10 aerial duels in the Premier League all of last season. That's about the same number as SMS wins every 3 games. So he's not going to give you that presence at set pieces. But if you can keep him fit, he's definitely going to give you really good goal scoring output. And they've kind of built their run at the Champions League over the last couple of seasons over being a really good attacking side. If Lazio could replace their star midfielder with Ramsey and have a kind of cash surplus of like 50 million euros, that looks like really, really good business to me. If I were Lazio, I'd be all over this.
But the question is Aaron Ramsey all over it? Probably not. Probably wants to stay in the Premier League. Probably sign that 200k contract.
Yeah, he's not going to learn another language, is he? So, he already speaks Welsh.
Next up is the guy that shafted the man shaft. It's Heung-Min Son to Manchester United, of all people, Van Straten. This is a bit of a hot take, isn't it?
Yeah, German news outlet Sport1 report that Heung-Min Son could be on his way out of Spurs and Man United are leading the chase. Apparently, Arsenal and Liverpool are also interested in the Korean, and he'd be expected to fetch at least 70 million euros. Now, United have been looking for a wide forward, that's no secret. Griezmann, they were interested, nothing's happened. Obviously, he's staying at Atleti. Justin Kluivert, they're interested. He's going to Roma. But if they let Martial go, they could do with a guy who could both play wide and deputise at centre forward if Lukaku were to get injured. Son, he's yet to turn 26. I think he turns 26 next month. He's reportedly seeking a new big contract, and that's something he's much more likely to get at United. They have a wage bill of £264 million a year. That's more than twice Tottenham's on 127 million. So unless you're one of their really key players, you can't necessarily expect to get a big contract there. Spurs arguably could be said to have been planning for the loss of one of their star forwards. They obviously brought in Lucas Moura in January. They've reportedly made a €26 million bid for Nice's Alassane Player. That's according to RMC. So potentially they could let him go if an absolutely ludicrous offer came in. Whether they'd let him go to Man United is another question.
And it might take a couple of players to replace his output, because despite starting life at Spurs as a reserve 18 to 24 months ago, he's actually become really crucial for the Lily Whites in the last year. Now, he's racked up 140 appearances for them and contributed to 73 goals and assists in that time. So pretty prolific stuff, really. And last season, he got 12 goals and 6 assists in the league. Only 13 players were involved in more. Now, his stats look like your sort of modern goal-scoring winger, don't they? He shoots 3 times a game. He takes 1.8 of those shots from inside the box, which is actually the same as Gabriel Jesus and Eden Hazard. He creates 1.5 chances per game, which is the same as Pogba, and he completes 2.3 dribbles per game, which is the same as Raheem Sterling and Salah. So there are elements of his game that are thoroughly elite, and he's very useful anywhere across that forward line, isn't he? Sorry. So I imagine that Pochettino won't want to lose that versatility. And like I've just said, he can pose a threat from either wing. Of his 16 League and Champions League goals last year, 6 came with his right foot, 8 with his left, 2 with his head. So what's it called when you can use all of your limbs?
Ambidextrous.
Ambidextrous, just forgot. There he is, the big man. But we can't see Pochettino letting Son go unless he kicks up a massive fuss, unless he makes a song and dance out of it. You actually quite like that. I saw the little wry smile, so, you know,
it was good for me.
He appeared in 37 of Spurs' 38 Premier League games last year, so in terms of minutes and his, like I said, his stock in that team, I think it's only going to increase over the next season. I think he's going to stay.
Yeah, me too. Our final serious transfer rumour of the week is Thiago Alcantara, who has been linked with a return to Barcelona, but Real Madrid have apparently entered the fray.
Real Madrid would be freaking ridiculous. But, you know, that's why we love the game. Barca Paper Sport claim that Barcelona are looking to re-sign Thiago Alcantara. Like you said, the Spaniard left them in 2013 for a cut price, 25 million euros, and has since won 5 Bundesliga titles, adding to that Champions League and 2 La Liga crowns he picked up with the Blaugrana. But Bayern might be willing to let him leave for 70 million euros, despite renewing his contract until 2021 last year. And it probably, his departure, if it was to come to fruition, would have something to do with fitness, wouldn't it? And that's always been his issue. Outrageous ability, outrageous output when he's on the field, but he's 27 now. He's only once played over 2,000 minutes in his 5 seasons in Germany. He's averaging around 1,400 minutes a year, or 15 full games, which, I mean, at Bayern, they tend to kind of stick with the same guys as well, don't they? So it doesn't bode well for him moving forward either. He's also failed to establish himself for Spain, maybe a little bit more pressingly for him, despite Iniesta now being 34 and leaving Barcelona for Japan. We've seen him be used as a bit part sub in this tournament, really at 27 for a player of his calibre. He should be in his pomp, right? He should be bossing this tournament.
Well, he does boss games when he plays, right?
Yeah.
I mean, he can play as a 6, he can play as an 8, he can play as a 10. He's pretty much got all-round ability. When he got in the field last season, he was winning possession 5.3 times a game, which is kind of N'Golo Kante numbers. He also creates over 2 chances and completes 2 dribbles. He's heavily involved in Bayern's passing game. He completes the most passes per match of any Bayern player with 85. That's 13 more than Mats Hummels, who is second in the list. Hits an incredible 8 accurate long balls per 90. That's 5th in Europe's top 5 leagues among outfield players. I mean, the guy's got outrageous ability, and it's almost turning into a Brazilian Ronaldo situation where you just think what a player this guy could have been. He maybe could have been the best in the world if he hadn't got these consistent injuries. He's played just 96 out of 170 Bundesliga matches since moving to Germany. So it would be a big risk to pay the money for him. On the other hand, Barcelona, they obviously feel a sense of ownership when it comes to him, and he would help Busquets control games. He can play a variety of roles. If he could stay fit, he'd be an amazing signing for everyone. Yeah. However, I don't think that he will stay fit. But it still seems like something stupid they do.
Big question marks, yeah, over his fitness. But, I mean, considering some of the garbage they've got in midfield, Barcelona.
Yeah.
Gomez, Paulinho, quite like them both for various reasons.
I hate them both.
Hair, housery. But yeah, they could really use him, couldn't they? And he'd be a cut price option on someone like Verratti, but then again, Verratti can actually play a full season. What do you guys think? Is he worth the risk? Let us know in the poll just above. Our transfer shocker has a bit of a World Cup vibe about it, Van Straten. It is Juan Fernando Quintero of Colombia to Real Madrid, according to whom?
According to Madrid paper AS, they apparently think that Real Madrid want to buy the Colombian attacker. Now, if he were a really young player, I could get it, but he's 25 years old. He scored 1 and assisted 1 for his country at the World Cup, and the theory is that Real will move for him as they did for Keylor Navas after the 2014 World Cup, as they did for James Rodriguez that same year. And he's got experience under Julen Lopetegui. He played for him at Porto, arrived at the age of 21 and got 3 goals and 7 assists in 30 appearances before Lopetegui left. So that wasn't too bad, but it hasn't really gone to plan since then, has it?
No, you're right. His career has stalled dramatically since, with loan spells at Rennes, Independiente Medellin, and now River Plate. He's only managed more than 5 league goals once, and that was with Independiente. And if Real want him, they'll have to negotiate with both River Plate and Porto, as River have an option to buy Quintero next season for €4 million. So, €4 million,
Real
probably,
Madrid standard.
Yeah, not in Real Madrid's wheelhouse. And effectively, I don't want to be harsh on the guy, but having observed his playing style at the World Cup, he is kind of like a poor man's James Rodriguez. So, why don't they just keep him?
Yeah.
He's quite good, isn't he?
They literally own him already.
They still own him. Yeah.
And he's better.
That was transfer review for this week, guys. Which one tickled your pickle? Let us know in the comments below. Van Straten, what else is on?
There's World Cup review, as always. We'll be keeping you up to date on the latest events from the World Cup. We've got Stat Wars The Champions, that's coming back. What else have we got? I don't know, 10s, 11s, all the normal good content that's right here. Continental Club, Sunday Vibes. Stop asking me for more to watch.
I tell you what we have got, a bloody shoot. Now, Sunday Vibes. Let's depart.
Bye.
So long.